Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'll be showing you how to make dubstep in the style of Loefah, inspired by his tracks Mud, Root, The Goat Snare and Disko Rekah. The project file, samples and presets are available for a small contribution via my Bandcamp and via my Patreon, along with an exclusive preset, links in the description. Please do like and subscribe if you learned something new from this video, and if you'd like me to cover a specific artist or label, leave a comment. I've recently released my UK Garage Breaks 2 sample pack, so I'll link that in the description too. Our BPM is 144 and we're essentially in the key of D sharp Phrygian dominant. However, the lead plays a chromatic pattern, as we'll see later. For the drums, I've used several breakbeat elements, as Loefah does this in Root. The kick is one of these elements. Next, we have the rest of the drums. Starting with more breakbeat elements. So we have a snare, ghost note, and a hat. These are from the worm break. Then we have a clap, which is layered with the snare. Loefah does similar layering in Root, and the clap's metallic quality means it also recalls Disko Rekah's snare. Then we have the perks. The perks mainly supplement the snare. I'll solo the break and play these together so you can hear what I mean. Then we have the hats, which I'll play individually. So this is hat 1, hitting on the first and third beats. This is hat 2, which is playing an offbeat pattern. And hat 3 is playing a 16th note pattern inspired by Mud. Finally, we have the crash. All the elements in the drums group, aside from the crash, have this MPC groove applied to add swing and velocity changes, helping the percussion feel less mechanical. You might also notice the drums cut out for the final bar, or technically a bit before. This is because the groove moved one of the hats back slightly, and I didn't want it to play a few milliseconds before bar 8 started. On the drums group, we have drum bus and EQ, with reverb applied via Send A. And for the reverb, I'm using this basement preset. Next, we have the basses. Starting with this 808 inspired sub drop. In Serum, we have a sine wave taken down by 2 octaves. Note the amp envelope decays slowly like an 808. There's a low pass filter with the cutoff taken down and some drive. And we have distortion in the effects. In the matrix, we can see there is an LFO, LFO1, modulating the pitch, which is creating the initial attack. We return to the MIDI and I reveal the pitch modulation. You can see that the pitch drops during the first 2 beats. This is a drop of 2 semitones determined by the negative pitch bend within Serum. Next, we have the wobble. Which is inspired by Mud and Disko Rekah. I'm using a triplet rhythm here, and if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll be familiar with how common this rhythm is in dubstep, particularly with bass lines. This is made in Massive, and we have a square wave taken down by 2 octaves. There's a low pass filter with its cutoff modulated by this LFO. Could have done this with an envelope, but the LFO works well. Make sure that monophonic or monorotate is checked for your basses as well when using Massive. We have distortion in the effects too. Loefah uses delay on his bass in Disko Rekah, so I've done this here. The delay is in an audio effects rack as it enables me to use it like a send, and I didn't want the dry wet to mess with the level of the sub. On the group, we have an EQ, parallel compression, which I always think sounds great on basses, and a chorus rack, which is like the delay rack I showed you just a second ago. Reverb is applied via send A. Next, we have the effects, starting with this creepy effect. This has a bandpass filter applied to sweep the frequencies around using the inbuilt LFO and a quarter note delay. Then we have the police sirens, which again have an echo applied, and all the channels in the group have individualized echoes. I'll just play all the channels in the group one by one. All these effects can be heard in the tracks I referenced at the beginning of the video. On the group, we have drum bus and EQ, plus reverb via send A. Next, we have the lead, which is a sample in simpler. As I mentioned before, this is a chromatic pattern inspired by Mud. I've added a filter within simpler to add more squelchiness to the sound via this high resonance. On the channel, we have chorus, bass mono, and echo, plus reverb via send A. Next, we have the vocal.
It completely overwhelmed all other variables. Completely overwhelmed all other variables.
The vocal is inspired by the speech heard in the goat snare, and I took it from a video of a 1950s science experiment. I've added echo here, although I did clean up and quantize the sample before bringing it into the project. Reverb is applied via send A. And that's the video. Please leave any questions or requests in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.